Could you do a video on if there were any Jedi alive during the sequels after Luke's school burns? If so, what would be an ideal Jedi council for after the Battle of Exegol? Would Rey be Grandmaster? So in truth, we don't know if there's any Jedi left alive during the sequel era. I'm talking the Jedi from the prequels and Luke's school. But yes, all of these students from Luke's school were eventually killed. But several Force-sensitive individuals remained active after the Galactic Empire period, some of whose fates at that point were still alive and well. Firstly, we have Ezra Bridger. He disappeared with Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels, but was still alive in the New Republic era in the Ahsoka show. So as long as he survives Thrawn's return, he could be old enough to help build the new Jedi Order. Then there was Ahsoka Tano. Though she never calls herself a Jedi, she did survive into the New Republic era. Her fate post-Ahsoka is unknown. We do, however, hear her voice amongst the other Force ghosts in Exegol, but apparently when the creators were asked if this meant that Ahsoka had died, we got a very non-answer. So that naturally led fans to speculate that Ahsoka could still be alive and could even be using the World Between Worlds to commune with Rey. Then we have Grogu. He was trained briefly by Luke and he chose to return to Din Djarin. For all we know, he may resume his Jedi training. In my opinion, it's unlikely, but never say never. Then there's Cal Kestis. If he survived the Imperial era after the Jedi Games, they are working on a third installment, so he could be alive decades later, though his fate remains uncertain at this time during the sequel era. But if a new Jedi Council were to form post Rise of Skywalker, it would likely be small but composed of the people that I mentioned before. After all, Rey's movie is only set 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker, so the new order wouldn't really be that big that would warrant a council. Rey would most likely be the one and only in charge at this point, very much how Luke was. But if there was a Jedi Council, I do believe that Rey would be on it. She's the last fully trained Jedi at the time of Exegol's fall, and she is taking the steps herself to rebuild that order. However, if Ahsoka or Ezra or even Cal Kestis were involved, she might defer to them for guidance in her early years. I like to think Finn would be Rey's first apprentice. 15 years later, he's likely rising as a knight or even a master. So if that's the case, maybe we could see him join the council. I think that would be quite interesting. Ezra Bridger, he's a Jedi with deep experience and he would likely mentor young Jedi. Ahsoka Tano, only of course if she's alive and willing to join the Jedi Order again. She would likely serve as an advisor. She would be old but very wise. I've always said that if she lives and officially rejoins the Order, then she would basically become the Yoda of that era. Cal Kestis, again, he is a very experienced Jedi from the Purge era, very valuable for his survival instincts and philosophy. Then I would like to put Shin Hati on the list. If she turns away from the dark side and joins this council, she could add a unique perspective. She's a former Darksider. Her knowledge on that experience and how corrupted individuals can think would prove very valuable. But does that mean that Rey would automatically assume the role of Grandmaster? We don't know. Luke Skywalker, in canon at least so far that we haven't seen, was never referred to as a Grandmaster, but that's because there wasn't a Jedi Council. Normally the Grandmaster role goes to the most senior and the most wisest of Jedi, but because Rey's in a unique position of her founding the new order, that might give her the opportunity to become Grandmaster so she can lead it in the way that she thinks it needs to go. But who knows, maybe we'll find out in her movie. Hope it helped.